Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to Week in Nintendo. Every Saturday I like to go back through the past week's biggest headlines so you can get all caught up on all things Nintendo. If you're new here and you like these weekly news rundowns, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell as well if you'd like to stay up to date on everything happening with the channel. With all that out of the way, let's go through this week's Nintendo news. On Sunday, Wario64 over on Twitter spotted an Amazon UK listing for a Switch port of The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. No release date was given in the listing, but apparently some people were able to place pre-orders, and then after news of the port started making the rounds, the listing was taken down sometime on Monday. So, who knows, I'd love to hear from anyone who is supposedly able to make a pre-order and if that order was immediately canceled or if it still shows up in your order history. And if this port is to be believed, I'd be really curious to know how Nintendo plans on handling the controls. Skyward Sword relied heavily on the Wii's motion controls, and it seems like reworking enemy combat for button input would be a pretty massive undertaking, but with the way the Switch has been selling, all that effort might end up paying off. On Monday, we learned that Sports Story, the follow-up to the critically acclaimed golf RPG Golf Story, would be delayed via Sidebar Games' Twitter account. Stating that the game has become quite ambitious, the team wants to take more time to ensure that everything makes it into the game, even releasing a delayed trailer hinting at all sorts of bizarre content that's planned to be included. So while it's a bit disappointing to hear about this delay as I was eagerly awaiting the release of Sports Story, I think it's a good sign that the dev team seems so inspired to continue adding content, and hopefully the added wait will end up being well worth it. Tuesday, of course, we had the Indie World Showcase showing off over 20 minutes of new indie titles headed to the Switch, one of the strongest presentations we've seen from Nintendo in quite a while, with a wide variety of games and several standout titles, many of which were shadow dropped during the presentation. There was quite a bit shown off here, so I'll leave a link down below if you haven't seen it yet yourself, but I'm just going to stick to a few titles that really stuck out to me personally. There was Hades, an atmospheric roguelike dungeon crawler from Supergiant Games, where you make your way through the underworld battling gods, ghosts, and monsters for permanent character upgrades. The game is already available on Steam and the Epic Games Store, where it's garnered high praise and critical acclaim. Hades will be coming to the Switch sometime this fall. Next, we had Raji, an action-adventure epic drawing on the setting and mythology of ancient India. The game is a timed Nintendo Switch exclusive and will be coming to other platforms sometime in Q3 of 2020. Raji is available now on the Nintendo Switch eShop at a discounted price of $22.49. Then there was Manifold Garden, an award-winning first-person puzzle game that has you navigating MC Escher-like structures by manipulating gravity to traverse the mind-bending levels. I managed to get a review code for the game, and I'm finding it incredibly relaxing to wind down with. Manifold Garden is also available now at a discounted price of $17.99. A Short Hike, another game I managed to get a review code for, is a peaceful island exploration game tasking you with climbing to the top of a mountain any way you choose. The game seems to take some cues from Breath of the Wild's Go Anywhere You Can See exploration style, and utilizes a charming low-res art style reminiscent of Nintendo DS titles. A Short Hike is available now at a discounted price of $7.19. Then there was Spiritfarer, a game that pairs action-adventure platforming with peaceful town management mechanics a la Animal Crossing and a gorgeous animated art style. You're tasked with transporting the spirits of your animal friends across the ocean so they can cross over to the afterlife. The game seemed to be one of the more popular titles of the showcase, and IGN reviewed the game with a 9 out of 10, praising the game for its relaxed pace and masterful use of color. Spiritfarer is also available now for $29.99. Hypnospace Outlaw, a nostalgic 90s internet simulation game, has you exploring bizarre websites to track down digital bad guys. I am curious how the game will control on the Switch, as it seems tailored for mouse and keyboard input, but we did find out that the Switch version would come with USB mouse and keyboard support. Hypnospace Outlaw will release on the Switch on August 27th and can be pre-purchased at a discount of $14.99. The one more thing from the presentation was the announcement of a free September 23rd update to Untitled Goose Game that will allow for 2-player co-op, and a physical release of the game will also be available on September 29th, although unfortunately it looks like the co-op update won't be included on the cartridge and will need to be downloaded separately. You probably noticed I listed quite a few discounts there, and that's because Nintendo launched an indie game sale immediately following the presentation with up to 40% off select indie titles, and that sale will run through August 30th. Nintendo is also offering a Share the Fun sale with up to 50% off select multiplayer titles, and that sale will run through August 30th as well. Let me know down below which game from the Indie World Showcase you are most excited about. Tuesday, WT&T, a French retailer responsible for leaking the existence of The Witcher 3 on Switch, posted a listing for a collector's edition of Breath of the Wild 2 for €82.85, which comes out to about $99 US. If the listing is based on a real product, it doesn't seem surprising that Breath of the Wild 2 would get a collector's edition much like the first game did, but I wouldn't put too much stock at all in the 12/31/2020 placeholder release date, as I'd be incredibly surprised if the game somehow managed to release this year. Wednesday, Thursday, we saw listings appear for PS4 and Switch versions of a Prince of Persia remake from Ubisoft with a release date of November 2020. And man, Ubisoft has had incredibly poor luck with their surprise titles being leaked early, but these findings were still very exciting for longtime fans of the series since it's been over a decade since a mainline release. We'll have to keep an eye on this one as we get closer to November. Who knows, maybe we'll see more about the game in Nintendo's next Direct, which should hopefully be happening sometime soon. Again on Wednesday, data miners uncovered Nintendo Switch controls in the demo of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, the upcoming remake of the classic skateboarding games that's so far only been announced for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Control layouts of the Joy-Con Grip, Pro Controller, and Nintendo Switch itself were supposedly included in the demo and have been shared online, but I guess it would be possible to fake something like this. We'll just have to wait and see if a Switch version gets announced, but I sure would love to have this game on the go. Wednesday, we also learned that the Nintendo Switch will be officially coming to Brazil. Nintendo took to social media to make the announcement that Brazilians can expect the Switch in their country, quote, soon. Because the Switch hasn't been officially available in the country, Brazilians have had to rely on importing the Switch and its games at incredibly high prices. So all of this is great news for Brazilian Nintendo fans and for worldwide Switch sales. Thursday, we saw some photos pop up on Twitter of the Super Nintendo World set being built at Universal Studios Hollywood. We still have yet to get an official opening date of the Universal Hollywood location, although 2023 was said to be the year the attraction would open at Universal Studios Orlando. I imagine our current situation has affected those opening plans somewhat, but it's still nice to see that the park is at least underway on the West Coast. And that does it for this week's Nintendo news. I haven't done a 20 years ago today segment these past few episodes because the Nintendo 64 is in quite the little summer drought, but we've still got some titles on the horizon for the remainder of 2000, so that'll be returning next week. And if you stuck around through all that and like what you saw, please consider liking and subscribing. And until next week, have a great weekend, play some video games, and I'll see you next time.